Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Bhad Paramahamsa, Parujikacharya, Ashtottara to Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Bhad Paramahamsa, Parujikacharya, Ashtottara to Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Sahameda Bhaktivedanta ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you, Suresh. I was wondering about the lights. I was thinking it was a little dim. I see I was right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 24th day of March 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 9 entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text 25 at the bottom of page 404. Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Dharmaraj. Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Go ahead. Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha. 404. Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Got it? Oh, okay. Text 25, chapter 9. Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yajino Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Prakash. Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. Yanti, go. Deva Vrataha, worshippers of demigods. Devan, to the demigods. Pitrin, to the ancestors. Yanti, go. Pitri Vrataha, worshippers of ancestors. Bhutani, to the ghosts and spirits. Yanti, go. Bhuta Ijaha, worshippers of ghosts and spirits. Yanti, go. Mat, my. Yajinaha, devotees. Api, but. Mam, unto me. Translation. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. Purport. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Purnamasi. These are vividly described in the Fruit of Activities portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, a raksha, or a pishacha. Pishacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pitas achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyoti. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, you notice the word yanti in this verse. Go. You go where you worship, where you focus your attention, where you have all your aspirations, and where you have your faith. Those who are worshiping the ghosts and spirits, I remember when I lived in Miami, we'd have people come up from Brazil. Devotees would come up and tell us stories about ghost worship that goes down out there. They go into the woods, classic, they worship with cigars and with liquor and all this kind of stuff going on. They're real. These beings are real. You know, just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not real. So, as you cultivate your consciousness in this lifetime, you're making your destiny. This is a fact. Every day, every moment, where you turn your attention, or where your attention is forced to go because you're simply controlled by the modes of nature. We sometimes forget, we often forget, how bound up we are. You know, we're bound up, we're reading in the morning about King Prachinabhari and how he's learning so much from Narada Muni, and what Narada Muni is emphasizing again and again, mind or the desires and the whole mentality that you've cultivated in this lifetime is what's going to determine your destiny. And we hear, who we associate with especially, is all creating a certain mentality in our mind that is determining our future in this life as well as the next. Even parents know that. They want to know who their kids are hanging out with. You know, don't associate with them. You know, don't go there because they know that it'll be bad. You know, you get various traits and you get various influences, and you go off the straight and narrow path, so to speak. So it's a science. Prabhupada would always say it's not just a faith or a religion. It's a science. So here, Krishna. Now the context is, again, we look at the context, but that's not how it works. You have to go into the court, and you have to eventually, confront the judge and all the evidence. So whoever has any be, so there is a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of Ishwaras. But we want to know who's the supreme Ishwara. If we can get the good favor of the supreme Ishwara, we've got it made, right? We can go. He'll let us into his abode. It's like, this guy Bezos, he's now the wealthiest guy in the world who runs Amazon. But what is Krishna's nature? There's a definition of God that we're given by Parashuram, or no people will have them. The first one is wealth, Aishrayasya. One of the basic principles, I remember, it's right in the Isha Upanishad. Notice the word Isha, it's the same word. What's the very first mantra? I know we don't study that so much. You remember that? Isha Vashamidam Sarvam. Yatkinchat jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magodakasya swidhanam. That the Supreme Person is the owner and controller of everything. Isha bhasham idam sarvam. Sarvam means everything. And we, as dependents on the Supreme Lord, we're entitled to our quota for maintenance. But we can't encroach on others. We become thieves. Just, what's going on? Practically everybody's a thief. Everybody's claiming more than he needs or encroaching on others like that. So that's the first thing. Aishwarasya. So Krishna is the supreme controller, and but there's a whole government that we don't see. It's like the water, the sun, the land, the air. There are personalities behind them. Nothing's happening automatically. And if you actually step back a moment, you see how well everything is organized. The sun's coming up, right, at just the right time, a little bit earlier each time now because we're in a certain part of the year. The summer's coming. That's when the sun you get more sun, right? That's why we just went to daylight savings time. So we have sun in the evening now. That's created by a devotee. It's called GCAL, where you can calculate exact times when the certain holidays begin, when they're going to occur in different places of the world. You can put that in. I have it, of course, in for SanDiego, but when I go to East Coast, I recalibrate, And I I was able to go back. You go to any date. I went back to September 1st, 1896. You know what date that is? Yes, that's the period. It's September 1st, 1896. I didn't know that, but I went back to 1896 around the right time, and I said, "Oh, this is Prabhupada's appearance day. It's right there on there." So how could they do that? Because the stars and the sun are moving with tremendous regularity. So when you see tremendous regularity, or you see organization, of any kind, there's a brain behind it. There's intelligence behind it. It's just common sense. And a tremendous amount of information and regularity just in one organism. Our own bodies, or every body is like a tremendous machine. So therefore, an intelligent human being should inquire, whose intelligence is that? Who has organized all this? That's the basic inquiry. In the Vedanta Sutra, the very first sutra enjoins, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa means curious. You should inquire. Into, now therefore, it's interesting how you have a whole book starting with the word therefore. What is that? Therefore usually comes after some argument, But what it means is, the implication, because the sutras mean there's a lot understood and it needs commentary. Now, therefore, having attained the human form of life, you should inquire into Brahman. Brahman means the source of everything. That's the second sutra. Janma jasya yataha. That from which everything has come, generated. Janma means birth. And adi. Every word is significant. Janmadi, adi means etc. So what comes after birth? Sustenance, right? You live for some time. And then comes destruction. Prabhupada would point, there's a verse that he would always quote, not the Sanskrit. It says that living beings would go through 6 stages. You're born, you grow, then you stay for some time, and usually you produce you have children, okay? And gradually you deteriorate and you die. 6 changes. But specifically, the soul does not go through those changes. We're never born, we never die, we don't grow, we don't produce byproducts. The body does that we happen to be in, So that's an important distinction. So what Krishna is saying in the verse that we read today is that having come to the human form of life, one should worship that entity by which you are going to go to the best destination, using a logic. If you worship some demigod, you can go to the demigod. But they're not eternal, and your place there isn't going to be eternal. And he just explained in a few verses back that even if you do everything right, and it's not sure, there's so many precise things you have to do to worship properly. And you go up to Indraloka, which is a heavenly planet. You live for thousands of years. You enjoy like anything. Your body doesn't deteriorate like it does here. There's all kinds of benefits. But it's not eternal. You're still temporary, and you have to come back down again to this world of death. So you didn't make any progress. What to speak of, worshipping some politician or something, which is common. Some cult, it's crazy. Who knows where you're going to go? You go wherever they go, and they're demonic. So, and that is not intuitive. We have to find that out from someone who has knowledge, who's realized. And that's what we're getting here with Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's wonderful commentary. So there's just a list here. Of course, it could be extended. You worship the demigods, you go to demigods. You worship the forefathers, you go to the forefathers. You worship the ghosts and spirits, you go there. It's like an investment. We're all investors. We're investing our time, we're investing our faith, our energy, sometimes our money. And we want to get the best return. So where could there be a better return? To go back to that world from which we came from, paradise, Krishna Loka, which there's no death, no birth, and an ever-expanding ocean of happiness and bliss. Now this sounds like pie in the sky, Yeah, come on, I got to go make my rent, But this is where the faith comes in, and the invaluable existence of what we call great acharyas, those who have realized this. And it's not just Srila Prabhupada, but a whole line of towering intellects and pure devotees who are assuring us this is all true. They're giving us the same word from the Bhagavad Gita. They themselves have realized it. They show in their lives, incredible, tolerance and determination and a certain joy and divinity that just shines through. And that, and you say, well, how can I get some of that? Yeah, and they tell you how. It's not a secret. Prabhupada broke out the secret. This is the most confidential knowledge. Means that it's available to all. I mean, this book is translated into 130 languages. It's not a secret. But having the interest and the ability to understand it, that requires some blessings. In other words, you have to open yourself up to the amazing information that's in here. So, Krishna's giving us very very concisely here. You worship this, you go there. You worship this, go there, and the list can be extended. Worship me and come to me. And so that's what we want. That's what we are endeavoring to do. Any questions? Okay, let's go on. Now the next verse is very famous. Some of you may know it by heart. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktupaditam. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Now just a little editing. I can't resist. The biggest change in this Bhagavad Gita was revised, and it's this whole first paragraph was missing from the first edition. Oh yeah, it was there in the abridged edition, which appeared in 1968. That's more than 50 years ago. Let's read that wonderful paragraph. You'll see why it's so important. Purport: for the loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent blissful abode, is very easy and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor, without any kind of of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The problem is genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness, because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method, and thus attain the highest perfectional life of eternally bliss and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone, because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in an exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a Brahmin, a learned scholar, a very rich man, or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is direct action in service to the absolute whole. And I'll explain what that causal means when we finish the purport. Here, Lord Krishna, having established that he is the only enjoyer, the primeval Lord, and the real object of all sacrificial offerings, reveals what types of sacrifices he desires to be offered. If one wishes to engage in devotional service to the Supreme in order to be purified and to reach the goal of life, the transcendental loving service of God, then one should find out what the Lord desires of him. One who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked for. Thus meat, fish, and eggs should not be offered to Krishna. If he desired such things as offerings, he would have said so. Instead, he clearly requests that a leaf, fruit, flowers, and water be given to him, and he says of this offering, I will accept it. Therefore, we should understand that he will not accept meat, fish, and eggs. vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water are the proper foods for human beings and are prescribed by the Lord Krishna himself. Whatever else we eat cannot be offered to him, since he will not accept it. Thus we cannot be acting on the level of loving devotion if we offer such foods. In the 3rd chapter, verse 13, Lord Sri Krishna explains that only the remains of sacrifice are purified and fit for consumption by those who are seeking advancement in life and release from the clutches of the material entanglement. Those who do not make an offering of their food, he says in the same verse, are eating only sin. In other words, their every mouthful is simply deepening their involvement in the complexities of material nature. But preparing nice, simple vegetable dishes, offering them before the picture or deity of Lord Krishna, and bowing down and praying for him to accept such a humble offering, enable one to advance steadily in life, to purify the body, and to create fine brain tissues which will lead to clear thinking. Above all, the offering should be made with an attitude of love. Krishna has no need of food, since he already possesses everything that be. Yet he will accept the offering of one who desires to please him in that way. The important element in preparation, in serving, and in offering is to act with love for Krishna. The impersonalist philosophers who wish to maintain that the absolute truth is without senses cannot comprehend this verse of the Bhagavad Gita. To them, it is either a metaphor or proof of the mundane character of Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. But in actuality, Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, has senses, and it is stated that his senses are interchangeable. In other words, one sense can perform the function of any other. This is what it means to say that Krishna is absolute. Lacking senses, he could hardly be considered full in all opulences. In the 7th chapter, Krishna has explained that he impregnates the living entities into material nature. This is done by his looking upon material nature. Foodstuffs is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. This point should be emphasized. Because of his absolute position, his hearing is wholly identical with his eating and tasting. Only the devotee who accepts Krishna as he describes himself, without interpretation, can understand that the supreme absolute truth, the foundational verse of the Krishna consciousness movement. Because Prabhupada began this movement on the basis of chanting the holy name and distributing prasadam. And it's still going on that way. And the essence of the philosophy of how prasadam works is right here in this verse. Krishna, why would Krishna, expand himself in this way? In other words, we understand he's infinite. What does he have to gain by creating us? Manifesting us, emanating us, whatever you want to think of it. Well, what would you do if you were God? Would you like to be all powerful and just sit on top of a mountain somewhere alone? What if you're God? It means that you want to enjoy at every moment. Why would you want to suffer? That doesn't compute. So what is enjoyment? We can tell a lot about God by thinking of ourselves. Where is enjoyment really? It's an interaction. It's what we call rasa, even if it's a perverted rasa. But loving other people, and your children, your wife or husband or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it may be, your country, there's that conception of also sacrifice, But it's in relationship. It's not in lording it over. I mean, there's a kind of a rasa there, but it's very kind of low. It's kind of mode of passion or ignorance. There's no real joy there, So Krishna takes the risk of expanding us as unlimited number of living beings with the idea that we'll all enjoy loving exchange through service. And he also says in the Bhagavatam explicitly, and he shows here, what is he doing here? He's the chariot driver of Arjun's chariot. He's a servant. He's serving the Arjun, serving his servant. So the exchange of love is the essence of what bhakti is all about. And this is a verse in which Krishna explains how anyone can do that, even in a conditioned state. We can't see Krishna in the spiritual form, but we can see the deity. We can see the picture. Those pictures are expansions also. It says that Krishna can expand through his material energy. And we know through wood, he can appear, the deity can be wood, stone, metal, whatever. even in the mind, right? Well, why not through pixels? Tell me why. All these pictures, you know, they can manifest on millions and millions of screens. One can see the Lord through there. He can reciprocate. But the problem is we don't approach in the right way. That loving attitude has to be there, and that's not easy to attain. But even, you know, in our conditioned state, we can be trained to do that by learning the mantras and offering and as much love as we can come up with, you know, and gradually being purified. And the point is, it's open to everyone. A little leaf, a flower, you know, some fruit. It's not, no one is barred from that. So, by contrast, if you want to worship the demigods, you know, and these amazing sacrifices described in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, as mentioned in the purport here, so much money is involved to hire the priests, you know, and you have to have another set of priests who referees to the priests who are actually chanting the mantras. You know, they don't come cheap either, you know. And then, you know, all the grain and the ghee. You know how much ghee is? It's like $10 for like a little pint. Imagine barrels of ghee you have to have. And even then, if you don't chant the mantras right, you can get just the opposite. Like Twashta. There's a story in the Bhagavad Gita where he was so angry that he mischanted one mantra, and instead of getting a demon who would kill Indra, he got a devotee dressed as a demon whom Indra would kill and send back to Godhead. The whole thing was so he didn't exactly get what he wanted. So when you get into the material side, and there's a whole material side of the Vedas, there's no question. Even the Ayurveda, the Dhanurveda, is, you know, art of war, the art of medicine, Jyotirveda. But it's not inherently transcendental just because it's in the Vedas. But here, Krishna is making it very easy. This is why this movement exists, because Prabhupada could come to America where no one knew anything. In fact, it was an advantage, because in India it says, yeah, I know Krishna already, you know, I don't need the back to Godhead. Krishna's on the street of Delhi trying to, you know, say these wonderful, pure, you know, writings that he had produced at great effort, you know. And mostly he got rejected. He couldn't succeed in India, thank God. You know, if he had, we would never see him. But he came to America, no one knew anything, and they were ready to accept. And so, you know, things took off. Okay, next verse is also important. Yes, Baru. Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. At the end of the first paragraph, that paragraph which was restored, was I right? Is it an important paragraph? I think we should thank Jayadvaita Swami for, you know, doing that. So, bhakti is never causal. Now, what that means, it's not so evident. There's a word, a hoituki, which comes up. Those who study the Shikshastaka or the second chapter of Bhagavatam, the word comes up again and again, such as savai pung sang paro dharmo yato bhaktir yato bhaktir hokshaje ahoitu kya pariyata yedma suprasidati. You know that one? Yeah. So this is an answer. What is the real dharma? Very important question and answer. So that supreme dharma is that which evokes devotion to Adhokshaja, the transcendent Lord. We can't see him, we can't hear him in our present condition. So we need a medium who can channel him, who can but he's there. So what is the quality of that bhakti? How is it produced? The result. A haituki and a pratiyata. Two essential words. So this haituki, the word hetu in Sanskrit means cause. And really in Sanskrit, yadduhoshi dadasi yat yat tapassasi kaunteya tat kurushva marapanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerity you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Purport. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live, therefore he should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ritualistic ceremonies. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called archan. Everyone has the tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours a day by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra around his beads, he is surely the greatest meditator and the greatest yogi, as substantiated by the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, this is Krishna describing things that we all do every day, or that we often do. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So this is a little hint of how, it can be, much detail can be gone into, of how to mold one's life in such a way that he's always connected to Krishna. This is the art and science of bhakti. You have to live, you have to do something. But note, if you remember way back in the 7th chapter, was it? I forget. There's 3 verses. No, it was the 8th chapter. Beginning of the 8th chapter, Arjuna asked some questions, and one of the questions is, how can one know you at the time of death? And in the answers to those that question, he said, Krishna has 3 verses, which are Antakale chamameva smaran mukva kalevaram yak priyati samudbhavam yasti natyata sankshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So that's the goal, to somehow mold your life in such a way that at the end of life you can remember Krishna. It's the beginning of the 2nd canto. It says this is the perfection of life. Then he gives the general principle, which we've been studying in the morning, had been expanding like anything by Narada Muni. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So that remembrance means that's the most prominent consciousness that you have. You've been cultivating it during your lifetime. That comes up and that determines your next life. Therefore, and this is the verse I wanted to emphasize, Tasmat sarveshu kalishu mamanusmada yujjita. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carrying out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, your mind intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. So here's the trick, is that because Arjun's duty was to fight, so that's why the word yudya is here. But we have some other duty if we're not living in the temple full time. We have some other duty we have to perform. So you have to somehow figure out how to remember Krishna even in that duty. Not easy. It's a struggle. I'm sure you're experiencing. You have to apply your mind. But you have to remember Krishna. And by dedicating your mind intelligence to Krishna, you'll certainly come to Krishna, because you remember him no matter when you die. So that's expanded in this verse. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, connect it to me. If everything is connected to me, then you're sure to remember me no matter when you die. Right? And you're cultivating that mentality, as we learn in the morning. It's a lifetime thing. That you're seeing Krishna everywhere. You're praying to Krishna. You have your faith there, and so that's what we want to try to cultivate. And Krishna is going to give the result of that in the next verses. Okay. Should we go on? Let's go on. Text 28. Shubhasabha palarevam mokshase karma bandhanai sannyasi yoga yuktatma vimukto mamapaishyasi. In this way you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Purport. One who acts in Krishna consciousness under superior direction is called yukta. The technical term is yukta vairagya. This is further explained by Rupa Goswami as follows, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya vishayan yataham apayunjata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Bhakti-samrita Sindhu 1-255. But Rupa Goswami says that as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, then that is called Yukta Vairagya. Actually, situated in renunciation, such activities clear the mirror of the mind. And as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual realization, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, at the end he becomes liberated, and this liberation is also specified. By this liberation, he does not become one with the Brahmajyoti, but rather enters into the planet of the Supreme Lord. It is clearly mentioned here, Mam Upaishyasi, he comes to me, back home, back to Godhead. There are 5 different stages of liberation, and here it is specified that the devotee who has always lived his lifetime here under the direction of the Supreme Lord, as stated, has evolved to the point where he can, after quitting this body, go back to Godhead and engage directly in the association of the Supreme Lord. Anyone who has no interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually a sannyasi. Such a person always thinks of himself as an eternal servant, dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. As such, whatever he does it for the benefit of the Lord. Whatever action he performs it as service to the Lord. He does not give serious attention to the fruit of activities or prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. This is the material side of the Vedas. For ordinary persons, it is obligatory to execute the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. But although a pure devotee who is completely engaged in the service of the Lord may sometimes appear to go against the prescribed Vedic duties, actually it is not so. It is said, therefore, by Vaishnava authorities that even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. The exact words are Tanra Vakya Kriya Mudra Vigyaya Nabujoy. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2339. A person who is thus always engaged in the service of the Lord, or is always thinking and planning how to serve the Lord, is to be considered completely liberated at present, and in the future his going back home, back to Godhead is guaranteed. He is above all materialistic criticism, just as Krishna is above all criticism. So it's important to realize. Now, let's just review this important verse that Prabhupada quotes here. Inasakta Vishayan. The idea of vairagya is important. What is this vairagya? So the essence or the root of the word is raga. Raga here means material attachment, and we're very familiar with them. Our minds are filled with them. Just being born in this world without any spiritual context or devotee parents, all kinds of raga develops. You know, even as a child, you're raga for your parents, or your brother, sister, you know, and gradually it expands and you get all kinds of attachments. By meditating on the objects of the senses, attachment grows. That attachment is raga, you know, is interest in trying to enjoy. So here is just the opposite. Vairagya means detachment. Renunciation is not precisely what we're talking about, although sometimes. Renunciation is tyaga, literally giving up. That doesn't necessarily include vairagya. You could be very attached to those things you're forced to give up, right? But the real thing is vairagya. Means that even in the presence of those things that you once were attached to, you don't feel any attachment, because your attachment has been turned to Krishna. And that attachment is a source of great joy and happiness. This is what we have to remember in this context here. We're talking about yat karoshi, yat asai, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give it to me, give it to me. What's the advantage? The advantage is that you first of all, you get free of the bondage of the attachment to this world. What keeps bringing us back to this life, embodied life? This is not a bowl of cherries, you know, material life. There's misery in around every corner. I just heard that water is running out in this state. We're living in a state that's practically in a drought situation. How'd you like to turn that water thing on and a couple of drops come out? It could happen. You know, it's happened before. This is by nature a dry state, and you know what's coming. This fire season. You know, and each season. This is the material world. Nature, this is one of the big categories of miseries here. Natural disturbances. One can put this pandemic in that, category also. They overlap. It's a natural disturbance, but then it ends up producing adhyatmic. Your whole body is giving you trouble. But anyway, that's the nature of this world. Dukkaliyam ashashvatam. It's full of miseries. And when we've experienced a little happiness, we say, oh, finally, the miseries are finished. No, they're not finished. It's just, they're on pause. They're coming. The old age is coming. You can't deny it. And so, getting out of it, getting to the point of liberation from birth, death, old age, and disease, and the threefold miseries, that's something to strive for. But that's just a platform. That's not even the goal. The goal is to be immersed, and this is why it's important to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, to read what life of pure devotion really means. This ecstatic joy of all varieties in loving exchange with Krishna. We experience a little drop of it, falling in love, whatever, that's just a pale reflection of it. And it's temporary. That's the problem. No matter how wonderful it is, idyllic it is, it turns to dust. That the relationship, which was your everything, must be broken by time. You live in this world a little while and you experience so many of that. And if you don't have your relationship with Krishna that you can rely on, you can get freaked out. You get, depressed, angry, try to, take it out, solve it with some drugs or whatever, which makes it worse. That's this world, that's this life. So all of this detachment and giving to Krishna, everything has to be done for Krishna. This is purifying our heart so we can taste the highest pleasure. And it's not dependent on your age, and how strong your senses are. It's just dependent on your heart, on your innermost consciousness. So we should remember that all of this austerity is leading to a life of unending bliss. And it's not a pie in the sky. So anasakta vishayan. So immediately, here's the definition of yukta vairagya. Because vairagya can also be attained in other means, by restraining the senses and getting attached to something else material, things that are detached from that thing, But yukta vairagya means vairagya by linking to Krishna. That's where the yukta is. Yukta and yoga is the same word, So, anasakta vishayan, without attachment to the object of the senses, but yataham upayunjita, where appropriate, engaging them with Krishna. Foodstuffs, right? Like we had some wonderful medjool dates, the other day, a couple of days ago. So we didn't offer the apricots on that day, It's such a, natural thing, but so wonderful, Though they offered them, I tasted one, But it was offered. The point is, someone took trouble to buy it, bring it, offer it, prepare it, and all this. So it's prasadam. So it's an exchange of love. It's not just you enjoying something. It's you're enjoying the remnants of Krishna. So that's called yataham engaging where appropriate. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe. The way I read this, which I may not have the Sanskrit. Nirbandha means you're not bound anymore. The same word in Sanskrit and English, bandha, bondage. When you enjoy something, you get bound by that enjoyment. I like to recall how when I was a kid, I always remember I used to love these little chocolate kisses. Do they still have them, Anything chocolate. I got chocolate sodas and all this kind of, So I grew out of it, luckily, But that's bondage, That's bondage. So here is nirbandha, when you're offering it to Krishna, but Krishna sambandhe, you get bound up to Krishna. We want to be bound up to Krishna as much as possible, with affection and love and faith and everything. This is called yukta vairagya. This is an essential foundation of Krishna consciousness. And so that's, whereas the other kind of vairagya, artificial vairagya, is called polgu, weak vairagya. And that's the impersonalist. They don't believe that the deity is spiritual, the holy name is spiritual. It's material sound. It's a stone. Even to say it is like, I don't want to hear it. We don't believe that, right? We understand Krishna is there. Oh, okay, I'm going over. So this is an important verse on Asakta Vishayan. We want to try to cultivate that vairagya, not the weak vairagya of the impersonalist, because it doesn't work. You have to transfer the attachment from matter to spirit, not just by strength of will try to restrain yourself from matter. Okay, any questions or comments? It's kind of late. Yeah, go ahead, real quick. Use the mic. Take off the mask.
Hare Krishna. Is there a difference between raga and kama?
Raga and kama?
Or relation?
They're related. There may be some small difference. The thing is, raga, can also be used for Krishna. Raganuga. Raganuga, we call it. Raganuga, really. Means following in the footsteps of those who already have love for Krishna. Because raga is for Krishna is very good. That's actually prema. So that whether you call it raga or prema, they're basically in relation to Krishna they're the same. All glory to Prabhupada. Haribol. All right, tomorrow we'll read text 28.